Welcome to Infinite Possibility. I'm here today with life coach and possibility coach Michelle Leath from California. And a lot of our goals with what we're doing in our lives right now revolve around this idea of possibility. So, Michelle, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a life coach. I help them release labels and shame and beliefs that, and then support them and guide them in creating the lives that they really want and deserve. So that's sort of my mission, and I'm absolutely loving it.
So, you've had many different life paths in your life, like so many people that I've heard from here at Infinite Possibility. So, how has becoming a life coach changed your nourishment? We've been talking a lot about feeling truly nourished.
Oh, great question. It's really it's on such a deeper soul level that it nourishes me, just to connect with people, and it's like the other thing that's cool about it is I feel so honored when people trust me with their most private thoughts and feelings and their hopes and dreams. And to me, it's just such a privilege, and it just makes my heart feel so open and so full in a way that none of the work I was doing before ever gave me that type of satisfaction. Well, you can find ways to bring your authenticity to what you're doing, and um, even if you're in a job that as having you do some things that you don't want to do. What skills and talents do you bring to the table, and what gifts do you have that you can try to utilize in what you're doing? And just trying to find ways to do that in a circumstance, and being showing up as how you want to show up in that context. And then, of course, then how you fill your time outside of your work life.
People start really appreciating just the gifts that they're giving to the world in their work every day.
Yeah.
That's how I interviewed Dr. Anita Johnston, this author that we love, this book that we love, Eating in the Light
Yes.
of the Moon. We had talked a lot about food and nourishment. So do you want to talk a little bit about your struggles with eating and perfectionism?
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, and that has been uh, a bigger part of my life than I care to admit sometimes. But yeah, I actually related to that book profoundly. I actually struggled with bulimia for about 24 years on and off, so a good part of my life. And so I can completely understand everything she's saying in that book about how it's really not about food, it's just how that shows up for certain people, including myself, that there are those deep underlying feelings of being not enough in some way or in many ways, and this like a spiritual discord, that's like part of you knows that what you're doing isn't honoring who you are, yet you don't quite know what else to do, and so it becomes a vicious cycle. So I went around and around on that road for many years, and it took a long time before I finally was able to create a new definition of myself, and really become free of those struggles with food, and start to find ways to nourish myself in healthier formats and in healthier ways.
As a life coach, how do you see this role of perfectionism or not feeling enough play out in other ways besides eating disorders?
Well, great question. I mean, I think you and I have talked about this a little bit as we, on my own journey. It's like I was able to release the habits that I had around binging and purging and those types of things, and thought, oh, I'm home free now. I'm free. I've got it all worked out. And then you kind of come to another level, and it was like I started to become aware of how I was applying the same thought patterns to other areas of my life. I've undergone a lot of uh, personal growth, and I'm fascinated with personal growth, and I realized here I am expecting myself to be this perfect, enlightened person. And, if I don't master the skill in the book I'm reading that week, I'm beating myself up again. And, I'm not turning to food, but it's the same dialogue. And I became aware of that recently. And, I think that these types of, it's kind of, I call it like, stuff your stuff and chuck your stuff kind of behavior pattern can show up for people in a lot of different ways. I mean, how about shopping and retail therapy, right? I mean, how many times do we say, oh, I feel terrible, I'm just going to go shopping and buy myself a bunch of stuff, and then you come home and you really don't feel any more nourished or fulfilled. You just have a big credit card bill and a bunch of stuff you may or may not really like. And I mean, I would even do that pattern too, where then I'd go take it all back. So, I mean, talk about a purge. It was like a retail binge purge.
Yeah.
And, I know we joke about it a lot, in our circles with other women about shopping. And, oh, I was so bad, I went shopping today. And so that's one way that I see it a lot. I see it a lot with people in their relationships with money, beyond shopping, but how we interact with money as energy in our lives. And what I see a lot with my clients is that feeling that a lot of women I have, where I can't say no, I have to do for others all the time. If someone asks me to do something, I've got to put everybody's needs before my own. And eventually you keep stuffing your needs down to a point where you just blow up and then maybe yell at your husband or, lash out at your kids or some drama in your work life or, whatever else you're doing.
That I was noticing that my perfectionism was carrying over into other parts of my life and I wasn't realizing it. So trying to be the perfect friend or as perfect as I thought I could be and always trying to please everyone else and trying to be the perfect worker, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter. And I was realizing that I was really putting everyone else's feelings in front of my own. I don't think I ever put my feelings first before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary, right? For some reason, it's a really vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
Because people might not be able to meet you where you are. It's like, so it's a huge risk. And it's actually, I think, one of the hardest things. I mean, that's something that I am still working really hard at mastering. I may never, I don't know if I'll ever master it, right? There's perfection.
There's no mastering, yeah.
But can I grow? Can I try to grow? I mean, every time I have an opportunity, I'll say, ooh, I didn't quite show up the way I wanted to right there, and then to try to be forgiving and compassionate. I had this aha moment like a week or so ago that, I mean, I know that like compassion and empathy are like one of my greatest skills with other people. I wasn't giving an ounce to myself. We're talking about compassion for yourself. It's so easy for me to be compassionate for other people that it's hard to be compassionate for myself. Mm-hmm. And to put your own feelings first and express them in a healthy way, it's scary. Stay off.
But with compassion, I also realized that I wasn't giving compassion to myself, and I was exerting so much energy with what I thought was compassion, but really I was taking on all of the energy of anyone that I was trying to help. So just last night, actually, I kept this open because I had a feeling we would talk about this. Another book that, I don't know if you've read this yet. It's fantastic. We're also interviewing this author, Sarah Avant Stover, pretty soon.
Okay.
But it's The Way of the Happy Woman. I met this author at Kripalu. And in here she says, compassion is being able to stay open and present to another's suffering without numbing out or getting so absorbed in her experience that you lose yourself. And it takes courage to cultivate compassion. Courage to face the pain and suffering both within yourself and in another.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that's it right there. I mean, the ability to not get absorbed into the other person's energy, that's true compassion. And I think that as women, we have a really hard time with that.
Yeah, exactly. And, even another level than that, there's different parts of ourselves, right? So I'm looking at that and, like, there are times where I can be so critical of myself and then I try to be compassionate, yet get soaked up into the own internal energy. I mean, it even happens within me, what she's describing.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I have to sit with that and think of that. So going back to Anita Johnston's book, Eating in the Light of the Moon, you had written to me about the masculine ideas and the feminine ideas that you had gotten. We both have talked about how the masculine and feminine doesn't mean gender. It doesn't mean man and woman. It's really within ourselves, the yin and yang within ourselves. So what are some of the imbalances that you were feeling in your adult life?
Oh, wow. I mean, once I read that book, it became so clear to me that I've really been pushing away that feminine side within myself. And I was able to kind of go back and look at my life and have all these, like, memories, like silly stuff. Like when I was 3 years old and my brother was born and I felt that my mom had taken her attention away from me, I pretended to be a boy for about 6 months. I thought I just had memories and things that came up, and I thought I've really taken a pretty masculine approach to build my business. It's like, okay, I've got to do. Too much focus on the doing and not enough on the being. Yeah, so, I just realized I was doing the same thing with my spiritual, personal growth pursuits. I think the little girl inside scares me sometimes. Little girl inside is sometimes kind of scary to face a little bit.
Yeah, and that is compassion again. There it is again, this compassion for the little girl inside. So Sarah Avant Stover, in The Way of the Happy Woman, she talks a lot about embracing your younger self. So mothering yourself in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is what we need to do, and I think like that's what I try to do as a coach with my clients, and what my coach did for me was sort of be a mirror back to you, like of that kind of compassionate, nurturing entity that we all need on how to be that for yourself. Helpful when you have somebody mirroring back to you what's really beautiful about yourself on on a number of levels, and helping you find your voice and those things. It really builds that. It really built it up for me. So that's how I try to view my job now, is to be a mirror for people and help them see how beautiful they are inside and outside, and help them really step into that authentic power and that they deserve to stand in every day.
I'm sure that you have to be super, super honest with yourself if you're a life coach. So how has this kind of transformed your authenticity?
Oh my gosh, it's a daily challenge. Yeah, you do, I have to trust that, by just listening and being present and holding space for people, that there's a benefit there, and I have to give myself a break on that, And it's actually been a challenge for me too, because I've stepped out of a pretty traditional type of a role, and I'm going out there as this entrepreneur saying, this is what I'm doing. And I think people look at me sometimes and think, is she crazy? But I have a deeper feeling inside that this is what I'm meant to be doing. And so I have to just keep pushing on, even when I, want to run away, or when I get worried about what people think. I just have to not let that affect me and keep going with the, the inner guidance that I have. And yeah, it's not always easy, but there's a deeper strength that's underlying kind of the mind talk that I just try to tap into.
Now, before we go, what are some questions that people can ask themselves to kind of unlock their own possibilities?
Oh, great question. I think one of the biggest questions that's so telling is I ask people, where do you give your power away, and to whom? So it's thinking about, when are the times you find yourself feeling helpless or powerless, and what are those situations or interactions like, and what's prompting that? So that's one question I ask. Another thing that I really like to work on is uncovering what I call these possibility bandits. It's the language that I use, but it's things that kind of take away our possibilities, and the things are what we tell ourselves. So what labels are you using to define yourself? Do you say, oh, I'm not going to try out for that thing because I'm unlucky? You just labeled yourself unlucky. Or what shoulds are you using in your life? Well, I should put somebody else's needs first. I shouldn't rock the boat by saying that this bothers me. I should this. I wish they should about 1 billion times a day. So it's paying attention. So I ask people to start paying attention and get curious about what are you saying to yourself, and where are you making up rules for yourself, and what labels you're using, what false beliefs are underlying those, and we try to start turning that around.
That sounds great, Michelle. Everyone, you can find all of the information about Michelle and where to find her, unlockyourpossibility.com.
Yep, that's it.
So you can find everything below this video. You can even find links to blog posts by Michelle. And she's going to be doing a couple of blog posts over here at Infinite Possibilities to kind of guide us along, and also take her on her own really raw, true journey that she's been blogging about on her own site. So thank you, Michelle, and we'll be hearing from you soon.
Thank you so much. So great to talk to you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.